for sure compliance.
Hey, it is Larry Sharpe here, a little bit past 7 p.m. I know yesterday I made 7 p.m. The other ones sometimes, I'm trying to do my best. I'm a bit overwhelmed as you could possibly imagine, but I'm still here on a Sharpe Way Show, a little bit past 7 p.m. here on the East Coast. Thank you so much for giving me a little chunk of your evening. I've been talking about a lot of different things here in the past couple of days. Stuff's been happening. Stuff happened today, actually. Stuff happened today and yesterday. And I want to bring up the idea of Biden and his pardons, Bill Burr and breaking points, broken men, things of that sort have all been happening recently, and issues that I've been talking about literally for years. And the funny part is no one else in New York State who's running for any type of office has been discussing it except for me. And finally, certain things are starting to happen, which is good. I feel kind of vindicated, but also kind of dissed. I kind of feel a little bit of both, but it's fine. It is what it is. I guess I should be happy that things are happening. I shouldn't complain. And so as I cover these things, and I know you're going to like them, so then do me a favor then. Like and comment and share. Share this right now into your other groups and all these other ideas. And for those of you on Twitter and looking at the very savvy, very super cool polling that came out recently, I'll cover that too if you like. Please put this into those Twitter feeds. Not a bad idea to see those things there too. Let some people watch who keeps polling higher and higher, even though he's not on the ballot yet. They don't want me. And anyway, besides the point. So please do that if you would. I'd appreciate every little bit. Does count. And of course, you will hear me say it every time because it does matter. Support my sponsors, theadvocates.org. The links are right there in the description, or click that link right there, or put that bill. Just go to advocates.org. Take the World's Smallest Political Quiz. Maybe take that quiz and maybe put that in all those Twitter feeds. Not a bad idea. People could take the quiz and go, wait a minute, maybe I should be voting for Larry Sharpe. Not a bad idea, if you ask me. Of course, if you want to support me crossing the state, LarrySharpe.com/donate always helps. Pick up a cool mug if you want to at LarrySharpe.com/shop. Awesome. Oh, cool shirt. Hold on. Cool shirt too. Either one, whichever you prefer. All good. So let me go right to, if I could. This is, I think, some surprising and not surprising news. But actually good news from a source that I didn't think I'd be seeing recently, but yes, I am. And here we go.
News from the White House now. President Biden announcing a plan to pardon federal offenses of simple marijuana possession. NBC News correspondent Josh Letterman is in Washington tracking this story. So, Josh, this announcement just came a few minutes ago from the White House, along with the proclamation.
Now, this is seriously a major thing. Pardoning people. I've been talking about pardoning people forever, using the power of the pardon to move policy, right? Not using executive order, using the power of the pardon on the right people to move it. I literally said in 2018, I would have a specific office called the Office of the Pardon, not waiting till I leave and then pardoning all my buddies who screwed things up. No, instead, beginning to pardon throughout the entire time, having an Office of the Pardon, allowing people where the judges and or legislation have screwed up and then fixing it. We're supposed to be a co-equal branch, right? Well, why can't the governor do this? Why can't the president do this? And he finally is. You guys know I'm not a huge Biden fan at all, but I will always give credit where credit is due. In this case, well done, Biden. A great step in the right direction. Well done.
What have we learned?
Well, Aaron, this is the most significant move by the Biden administration to date to loosen federal rules on the use of marijuana. President Biden signing that proclamation this afternoon that will pardon all of the individuals who have federal charges for simple marijuana possession. The White House estimating there.
Now, those are the three pieces here that matter. Right here is the critical piece. All three. They're all good. Now, could we go further? Yes, but I'm not complaining. I want to be clear. Could we go further and do better? 100%. There's more to do, but I will take it. I didn't see Obama do this. He was supposed to. I didn't see Trump do this. He was supposed to. But now we got Biden to do it. Well done. Now, to be forward, we know why Biden's doing it, right? We know why. And this goes back to something that I think some of the more pure libertarians might not be happy about, but I don't care. Is he doing it for the right reasons? No. No, there's no doubt Biden's not going, you know what I care about? All those people I put in jail 30 years ago with my horrible drug warrior stuff. No. He said, his people said, look, it's getting tight here in November. We might get our butts handed to us by the Republicans. Do something to get Democrats out. Please do something to get Democrats out. And he said, well, how about I'll do some loan forgiveness? They went, that's good. Okay, good. I didn't do it. Okay, do something else. Okay, how about do the weed thing? He said, fine, I'll do the weed thing. I'm sure that's why he did it. And I don't care. Good. Pardoning all federal offenses for simple possession is a great idea. However, I would also like to go further. This is great again. It should be possession and also for sales. Now, did you rob somebody to get your drug? Did you hurt somebody to get your drug? Did you murder someone in the streets? Okay, those are crimes. You shouldn't have done that. Absolutely. But simple possession and selling. If I sold it, it's not like I forced somebody to have it. They chose to buy it. No worries. So selling and possession would be better again, but I will take possession. All good. But here's the next thing. He's encouraging all other state governments to do the same. Now, why this is so good, this is why it's so good for him, not for us as Americans. I mean, it is good, but for him specifically. Now, Republican governors have to decide if they can do it or not. Brilliant move. This is the political aspect of this, right? The part that doesn't care about the individuals. Again, happy it's happening. I'm going to be clear, as I'm a little bit cynical on why, still glad it's happening. He's doing this because now Republican governors have to make a decision. Will they follow him or not? And if they do they piss off their conservatives? And if they don't, do they piss off the liberals? Yeah, as a general rule, you will find that most Americans are happy with this. Most are okay. This is a very popular thing, which is what they always do. They wait till it's super popular, then go, oh, I always cared about it. No, it's super popular. So that's great. But for if you're a Republican, this is a punch to you. If you're a Republican governor, not Republican, sorry. If you're conservative, this is a punch to you because now conservative governors have to decide, will they follow suit or not? Now there's no federal cover anymore. The federal cover is gone. So now states have to decide, am I pro or anti-cannabis? That's going to be challenging for Republican governors to deal with that right now. Oh, yes, it is. And also Republican senators and Republican congresspeople. All of them now have to worry about this. They threw abortion on the line. This was, I think, Republicans shooting themselves in the foot. And then this one's Democrats doing something right. I am surprised, but they did something right this time. But here's the biggest piece. Review on how marijuana is treated under the federal law. This means pulling it off of Schedule 1. Most of you don't understand why this is so important. The most important reason why this is the case is now people can do, in America, actual studies and experiments with cannabis without having to worry about getting in trouble because it's not in Schedule 1 anymore. You can create actual cannabis products. This will change everything in that regard. So this is great. You could always go further. And of course it was because of politics. Of course it was. But so what? I am happy it's happening. This was the right answer. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but to me, great, happy, all good. So yes. Rebecca says, yeah, I love your picture, Rebecca, so nice. What took so long for Biden to pardon marijuana offenses? Maybe midterms, more buying votes. I think that's true, Rebecca, and I'm okay with it. I know some of you who may be more right-leaning may be a bit upset about this and going, it's all just politics. Yes. And if this is what it took to get literally millions of people back in action in this country, millions of people who are felons, millions of people having a second chance at life, fine. Yes, I'm okay with it. Be Vegan Now says, great that Biden pardoned what he did with marijuana, legalized drugs. Yes, I would like to go further, but I'll take it. Again, I want to give Biden the amount of credit that's due. It is a good thing. However, he could have gone further and he did it because of politics. You're both correct. And I'm still happy. So yes. And I'm still happy. Yes. All righty. Let's see if I can grab this real fast. If I can go down here one more. Okay. I think that's good. Byron says, Morgendow, yeah, but say they're the only political party that is talking about legalization besides libertarians. Yes. And that's the thing, right? That's the piece. Absolutely. Clint says, been waiting all day to hear You say last night you will be on. Yes, I am on today. And I know I was going to do many hours of policy. I was planning on that. I was. But I'm going to blame my team. My team convinced me to wait until Monday so that we could promote it. I will be still doing those many hours of policy. I will be doing it, but I will be doing it on Monday and not today. So, yes, we made a change. How about that? There we go. Yes. Shelley says, so he's pardoning in the record numbers of black men and that he and Kamala imprisoned at record rates and longer sentences than their white counterparts. That's accurate. Yes, that's accurate. Yes. So it's not because he loves us. I'm aware of that, but I don't care. So I'm glad that we discussed that. I think that's awesome. So glad you guys care about it. Let me now, if I could, touch another piece before I go to the next part, if I could. And that is, there's recent polling coming out that just came out. And I love about this polling, so good. In the poll, that's, of course, internal polling, as you heard me talk about last night. Internal polling for the Lee Zeldin campaign. For those who aren't in New York, he is running for governor in New York. You can see now that I'm gaining in popularity. I'm not on the ballot, and I gained another percent. So now I'm at 3% when I was 2% on their poll. I'm at 6% in every other poll. But on their poll, I went up from 2% to 3%. Look at me growing. Off the ballot, still growing. So why did it happen? Well, what a coincidence. Now, Larry Sharpe, me, I am the difference between the two. What a coincidence that is. Well, I want you to think about this for a second and tell your friends this, who are going to say, Larry Sharpe, you should drop out. Larry Sharpe, you should support Lee Zeldin. Let me ask you a very important question. Right now, if their polling is correct, it's not. But if it was, me and Lee Zeldin together, we would beat Kathy Hochul. That's the goal, right? Together we would. So, Larry, why don't you make a deal with Lee Zeldin? Here's what I'll ask you. What if it was reversed? What if I was the Republican and Lee Zeldin was running, not being on the ballot, not part of a major party? Would Lee Zeldin poll at 3% or 6%? Of course not. He'd poll at 0. 0. Nothing. So if it was reversed, by default, I get all of the votes, proving my point. The person who could have beaten our Kathy Hochul, our governor, is the guy you're listening to right now. That poll proves my point. And I brought that to the Republican Party last year, and they laughed at me, and they pushed me away, and then they sued me off the ballot. That was their response when I said, let me run in your primary so this could happen, so I could actually beat Kathy Hochul and get that amount of money. The $12 million you gave you, the $12 million you threw away with Lee Zeldin, you would have given to me. Tell me anybody in this state who would be polling at 3 or 6% and not be on the ballot. There's not a person on the state who isn't a celebrity. Don't get me wrong. A celebrity probably could do it, right? Some celebrity might be able to do it if they were actively running. But non-celebrity, nobody. And I offered that to the Conservative Party and the Republican Party, and their response was, sue Larry off the ballot. If you are Republican and you think they actually want to win, rethink that. That wasn't their goal. Their goal was to retain power. The reason why they didn't want me running is they thought that if I took control of the party, that I might not let them grift as much. They're probably right. That was probably inaccurate. That was probably correct. But doesn't matter. The point is, they were more worried about grifting, because I would have far more transparency than there is in the New York State Republican Party right now. Far more transparency. The grifting would be open. I would allow for more parties. They don't want any of that. That's why they can't have Larry Sharpe at the top of their ticket, even though that would have been a victory. I'll ask you again. If Lee Zeldin was not on the ballot and running by himself, and Larry Sharpe was on top Republican ticket, would that be the same? Of course not. Nobody be looking for Lee Zeldin at all. He wouldn't be running. He doesn't care. I would still be running either way. And now we'd be beating Kathy Hochul. Exactly my point. So now you people say, well, Larry, you should drop out. Do you think the people who support me, if I go, I drop out, go, well, you know what? Now I'm voting Lee Zeldin. No. How do I know that? I already know this. The data is in. 25% of the people who support me are registered Democrats. So if I'm not there, they either don't vote or they vote Democrat. One of the two. They either don't vote or they vote Democrat. Otherwise, they'd be voting for Lee Zeldin. I know this already, right? And about 40% are Republicans who don't like the Republicans or Lee Zeldin. So either they don't vote or they vote Lee Zeldin. So he might get 20% of my votes, maybe, but 80% are people who are not, or the other 35% are people who aren't registered as either of those two. So maybe half of them vote, and maybe half of them will Lee Zeldin, half of them don't. I don't know. Maybe he gets 20, 25% of my votes, and Kathy Hope gets another 20, 25% of my votes. That's what happens. He doesn't win if I drop out. But here's the funny part. If he drops out and they put me on top, I win. The data is there. They've provided you with the data to show that if Lee Zeldin drops out, I win. But if I drop out, he doesn't win. Huh. Who wants to win? It isn't them. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I sure did. So let me get to the next piece, which is a little bit off. Not really talking about this, right? It's a little bit off. Let me grab some of your comments on this one. So let me grab this if you could. All right. Let's see here. Pete says, why do they assume everyone that's voting for you will vote Republican? Exactly my point. It's simply they're making that up because they want to. It's a lie. Yes. Morgan says, you are a celebrity in some circles. It's true. I'm a very minor celebrity in certain levels. I'm like an E-level celebrity, whatever it is. Something like that, whatever that level is. Yes. Andrew says, as a conservative, I'm saying screw Lee Zeldin for not putting the Libertarian Party or any third party on the ballot. Yes. I'm not voting for an asshat like Lee Zeldin who doesn't support the freedom of speech in which votes equal speech. Yes, absolutely. Nate says, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm writing in Larry Sharpe no matter what. Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I do appreciate that. Yes, 100%. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. So John says, because you don't like Queen Kathy, they assume you're Republican. Correct. Just if you say you're against Biden or Trump, you're another team. I agree. Completely. 100%. Robert says, let me grab Robert here. Let's go and grab Robert. Robert says, I consider Republicans and Democrats the same animal. An establishment swamp pig. Oh, I like that. Anybody else I can grab here real fast? Craig says, Lee Zeldin was never getting my vote. Lee Zeldin can't, and I stress this enough, Lee Zeldin can, and I can't stress enough, eat excrement. There we go. I'll say that, excrement. Thank you guys for all your responses. I do appreciate that. But I wanted to bring up something else, and this is another issue that we have to talk about. There is a rise in America as people are unhappy, and they have a right to be unhappy. A lot of us are unhappy. Many of us are unhappy. But there are a lot of people now who are shifting left, and they're thinking that socialism is the answer. I'm sure you see it everywhere. You hear it. It's all over the place. And even in more not as much mainstream, right? Like the internet news shows, you will also see people beginning to shift further left. I think you see it often. And there was recently one for Krystal Ball and Sagar on their show Breaking Points, where Krystal discussed what Bill Burr said. And before, I'll be very clear. I love Bill Burr. I don't care about his politics. He's funny. He's great. I will watch all his stuff. There are lots of comedians. I don't agree with their politics. I will still watch them. I think Bill Burr is funny. I will always watch his stuff because he is great. Clearly, his politics here aren't so awesome in my view. Not going to change a thing. Bill, if you happen to be watching, I so hope you are, I will still watch all of your stuff. It does not matter whenever it comes on Netflix or whatever, I will still watch it. So I'm still a fan, even though you're way off on this one. But anyway, let me grab what is being said here. I think you'll enjoy it.
What are you taking a look at?
Well, friends, when we look at problems on this show, frequently they circle back to one dictate: follow the money. You can think about the 2008 financial crash, the Iraq War, the politicians that sell us out, the addiction crisis, the hollowed out industrial Midwest, the war-hungry military-industrial complex, the lying partisan media, the climate crisis.
All of those things are follow the money. She's right. I agree. That's correct.
All the way down to, let's say, Kim Kardashian scanning her scheme, or Tua Tagovailoa sent back into the field to risk his life after suffering a concussion, risking it all. Why? Because the coaches and NFL brass care more about the almighty dollar than about the human beings whose lives and health they've been entrusted with.
So they care more about the dollar than the human lives. Okay. Keep going.
Now, normally, when we talk about these issues, I'll talk about the corrupting influence of money. I'll inveigh against the dangers of putting profits over everything else, including health, family, peace, and human life. But
is that really what we all do? Right? I mean, if you're talking about And you hear me say this all the time. And here's my proof that this is the part that bothers me. Most of the people who think this way are thinking industrial era. They're not thinking post-industrial era. And they're thinking only big business and not small business. Is some company that's being run by vulture capitalists think this way? 100% yes. Absolutely, she's correct. But most companies aren't that. Most companies are small companies who don't think this way, who actually do care about people. How do I know that? You all know this too. Who's hiring our felons? Who's hiring our former addicts? It's not big business. It's small companies giving people a chance. Who's being assisted by the gig economy? Who's being assisted by gig work? People who have broken resumes, people who need second chances, not the big businesses. So if you're going to say, if she were to say big business run by vulture capitalists think this way, she would be correct. That's 100% true. But you all know someone in your town or your city or your village, wherever you live, who's given someone a second chance, who cared far more about people, right? If all I cared about was money, I wouldn't be doing this. That's for sure. I wouldn't be doing this. The major parties have thrown lots of old money at me for me to not run, but I'm still running. So when it comes to money, I'm not that good. So this is the idea that so many people think, right? They think that everyone does this, but there's a second piece here. One of the largest employers in America is government. So if what she's saying is true, that means government only cares about the money too, if that's true, right? But we all know they don't. Government cares about power. So this is not accurate except for a small sliver of the economy, which is big business run by vulture capitalists. That's true. Public companies. This is true. But when you get out of that world, it's not true.
There is a name for the system that puts profits above any other value, and the name of that system is capitalism. Now, you might call it unchecked or unfettered capitalism. You might argue that we're just doing capitalism the wrong way.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone tell me socialism has been done the wrong way. Oh, wait, yes, I have. Every single time. So she's going to use the same excuse that all the socialists used. Every time we show a socialist country failing, they will always say the same thing. Well, that's not real socialism. Oh, well, then how come I can't say this isn't real capitalism? If you get that excuse, don't I? Right? Don't I also get that excuse? But the idea of over everything else, great. Or you can go communism or socialism, which does not put the dollar over everything else. You're correct. It does not. It puts ideology over everything else. Why don't you ask the families, if any are still alive, of all the Chinese soldiers who threw themselves at Marines during the Frozen Chosen, who died, who were killed 8-1. Yeah, 8-1. Or the Russians, communists, who threw themselves at the Germans in World War II, who died at a rate of 12-1. 12 dead Russians for 1 dead German. They threw their bodies at them. The Russians didn't care. The Russians literally shot people who ran backwards. That's not a story. That's real. That's how important the Russians thought about their human life. I don't remember any stories of capitalist countries, British, Americans, French, any of them shooting the deserters as they came back. I don't remember any of that. I never remember. I mean, maybe they did. I don't remember any stories, though. I remember lots, Chinese and Russians, who were all socialists and communists. Yeah, you're right. They probably didn't put dollar above life. They put ideology and power over life. Life is a whole lot cheaper in socialist, and communist countries. Ask Venezuela. Ask Cuba. So our system is by no means perfect. You will never hear me say our capitalism is perfect. It is not. It is broken in many ways. But if I have to go back and decide to myself, would I rather live in a broken capitalist country, which is what we live in, or would I rather live in a broken socialist country? You know what? I think Venezuela is telling me a broken socialist country is a whole lot worse. In fact, would I rather live in a, decent socialist country or a broken capitalist country? I'll take broken capitalist. And here's how I know that's true. 50 million American immigrants. No other country comes close. 50 million American immigrants. People have come to America. 50 million of them. No other country comes close. Germany, which is about a third of our population, 10 million. And that's the number 2. It's us then Germany. And Germany's been wide open saying, please come to our country. Wide open. They've got war-torn Yugoslavia, war-torn Syria, people coming in. And they still can't match us. Not by percentage, by sheer number or percentage. Does Cuba have that many? How about China? I got a feeling you're just talking trash, Krystal. I'm just saying the evidence you're saying is just you saying stuff.
Perhaps. But at the core of all of these issues, which have been allowed to fester and grow into a destabilizing, possibly world-ending mess, is capitalism. And specifically,
So it's capitalism's fault that the world's going to end. Even though the people who are invading, are they really capitalist? I mean, maybe. Do you consider Russia capitalist? I mean, maybe. But let's say you do. Let's say you do consider Russia capitalist. I'm not sure you could. I mean, it's definitely crony capitalist. It's a thugocracy for sure. But if you want to say it's capitalist because you want to attack capitalism, great. If you could think about and tell me of all of the countries who have abandoned capitalism. Yeah, I'm still waiting. Yeah, I'm waiting still. But how many have abandoned communism? A whole lot, like all of them. Like all of them have abandoned communism. Weird.
Capitalism of the type ushered in by the Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Obama neoliberal era. Now,
okay, yes, she's on the money with this. Giving you, yes, correct. You absolutely are correct. This type of capitalism has not been great. But why? Because it's been centralized control. Yes.
I've just found out I have an unlikely ally in my assessment of the situation, comedian Bill Burr. Take a listen as he responds to a message that he received from a conservative fan who was upset that Burr had favorably mentioned socialism.
Last week you mentioned you don't know why people demonize socialism.
Why would you demonize socialism?
I was really taken aback at that statement. Oh, Jesus Christ. Every country that has tried socialism has failed, and it's responsible for tens of millions of deaths. All right, so would you say capitalism is working? And
yes, I actually would, Bill Burr. I would say capitalism is far better than socialism. I want to say it again. It is not perfect by any means. Not at all. But is it working compared to socialism? Well, let me ask you, what countries have the highest poverty rates and the most people in abject poverty, meaning living on less than $2 a day? India and China. And not just by number, but also by percentage of all the large countries, right? You can go down to Africa has it worse, obviously. But if taking away Africa, who they're broken because of our imperialism, obviously. But looking at India and looking at China, who have been independent countries for many years, who were all socialist. India was heavily socialist. What do they have? Abject poverty. Do we have poverty in America? Of course we do. Without question, we have poverty in America. Of course we do. But nowhere near what they have in China and India. Not even close.
it is not, when like, what is it? Like 99% of the wealth is in like fucking 2% of the people's hands. All of these tent cities, you're telling me this is working? You don't think capitalism?
You think China has it better? There are literally, most of you don't know this. Do you know how many people in America starve to death every year? Anybody know how many? Less than 10. In the entire country. We're not starving to death in America. It's not happening in America. It does sometimes, but usually it happens. It's generally speaking, someone who is an addict and or on purpose. And it may sound horrible, but generally speaking, you have two types of people who starve to death in America. Someone who's an addict who has spent so much time intaking that they simply do not eat because all the money spent in the drug, and they then eventually lay there and die of starvation. That does happen sometimes, and sadly, purposefully. Either people who are being cruel and killing their children, which I know is terrible, but that does happen in America, and or in nursing homes and such where people are being horrible and cruel to old people and starving them to death. Those are the only times people starve to death in America. That's it. In China, that's every day. In India, that's every day. Across the world, every day. But let me go one step further. If you think of the more industrialized countries, right, the more capitalist countries, you think more of them, right? Those types, the first world or, developed countries. One of the most socialist, without question, is France. Without question. One of the most socialist countries in all of Europe. Everybody would agree with that, right? I know you would. Guess which country has the highest starvation rate in all of Europe? France. Correct. The most socialist country has people who starve to death. Did you get what I'm saying here? The data is not on your side, Bill. The data is on your side, Krystal. Now, I'm not mad at Bill. He's a comedian. He's talking trash. Krystal, you're supposed to know better. You got your own show, right? You're supposed to know better. Bill Burr can say whatever he wants. It's fine. He's a comedian. He can tell jokes, whatever. I don't care about him. I do care about you, though.
Is responsible for tens of millions of deaths. Anyway, Russia, Germany, China, Cuba, and most recently Venezuela have tried, or right now are socialist countries. As far as I know, whatever Cuba was trying to do, we prevented them from doing with a fucking embargo or whatever the hell we did. We've been fucking with.
See, whatever we did. Let me tell you about Cuba. For all the people who always say that, well, because we embargo Cuba. You know how many countries cannot trade with Cuba? Us. The rest of the world can. Guess who Cuba's #1 trading partner is? Venezuela, another socialist country doing so well. Yeah, so when the socialist countries get together, boy, do they still suck. Yeah, how do we know that? The communist, Russian, Soviet, Warsaw Pact countries all traded amongst themselves. And what happened? They all collapsed. Ah, it's crazy how socialism doesn't work when you can't add capitalism. Isn't that nuts? So you're telling me that, well, Cuba has to function well. It's America stopping it. No, what America's embargo does do, this is true. America's embargo is stronger than just one country. It's us, but also stops them or hinders them from using the dollar in international trading. That is a hindrance. It absolutely is. Using the dollar as the reserve currency does make trading easier, a whole lot easier. However, it doesn't stop them from trading. Why does Cuba still suck? Why are people still running here? What that story of, well, America crushed Cuba. So what you're saying, to be clear, is socialist Cuba would function if you let them be capitalists. That's literally what he's saying. Socialist Cuba would work if you just let them be capitalist. But then why aren't you socialist? Why do you require the capitalist model of using the US dollar when you can just trade your own goods back and forth with your own currency, your own goods back and forth? You could do that if you wanted to. Oh, but you can't, because socialism only works when you add capitalism. Then it's fine when you add capitalism, but by itself, it doesn't work. I would say ever. And every country that's gone hardcore socialist has come back and moved back towards capitalism. Now, again, I want to be very clear. Capitalism is not perfect. There are always going to be bad things. But all I'm saying is it's way better than socialism and working a whole lot better.
With them for 60 years. So I think you're looking at like what a lot of people do is you look at your own country through rose-colored glasses, the same way you look at your own sports team, like, oh, my team doesn't cheat, but your team does.
This is a good point. His point is a valid one, right? I mean, that is a valid point.
You're really,
yes.
You're really sort of looking the other way with what capitalism has done to other countries.
Okay, now there's 2 points. He's saying we do look at ourselves with rose-colored glasses. That's true. I mean, we're Americans, so we do look at ourselves as, well, we're not that bad. That's true. However, there is a chunk of Americans who go out of their way to blame America for every single thing. It's all bad. Everything's terrible. And then he says what capitalism has done to other countries. Okay, other countries have been destroying other countries for literally millennia. They've been destroying other countries for millennia. Prior to capitalism, we destroy other countries because of power, not because of capitalism. The Russians destroyed Afghanistan. They were communist. The Chinese destroyed Vietnam. They were communist. The Chinese destroyed Mongolia. They were communist. The Mongolians destroyed a whole bunch of countries. I don't know what they were. Monarchists, maybe? I don't know. So capitalism hasn't destroyed other countries. Power does. Whether that's through capitalism or communism or monarchy, it doesn't matter. Imperialist countries destroy other countries. Please stop blaming capitalism, right? Capitalism is the reason why so many people can grow. That's the good part. Now, if your country happens to be imperialistic, that sucks. Switzerland's capitalist, and they're not imperialist, and their people are pretty happy. In almost any way you measure, they're pretty happy. So you can be capitalist and not be imperialist. You're confusing the two, because the biggest imperial power right now in America is capitalist. That's like saying, well, this goes to the same thing she was talking about, right? The idea that, big business is bad, therefore all business is bad. No, powerful people are mean and corrupt because power corrupts. That's a fact. Whether that power comes from communism, capitalism, big business, doesn't matter. Powerful people become corrupt. That's true. You don't have to be a capitalist to become corrupt. Not at all. Just become powerful. You become corrupt. That's how that works. So we're blaming everything on a few.
All the sweatshop labor, all the wars we fought in over air quote freedom, where most of it is about, natural resources.
Yeah. So if you're not a communist country, if you're not a capitalist country, you don't need natural resources. The Japanese were not a capitalist country. They were a socialist country, the Imperial Japan. And they invaded countries, killed people, used gas, and took a bunch of resources and fought all wars. And they had, if you know this, some of you may know this history, they had the East Asian co-prosperity sphere, is what they called it. Yes, I know I'm such a geek sometimes, the crap that I know. That's what they called it, the East Asian co-prosperity sphere. It was, freedom and stuff, is what the Japanese imperialists said as they were coming through bayoneting people and using poison gas from the Chinese. That wasn't capitalism. So again, you are confusing capitalism with imperialism. They're two separate things. I would wish America would be less imperialist. Yes, more capitalism, less imperialism. There we go. That's a good slogan for libertarians. More capitalism, less imperialism.
All of these fucking countries where we've gone in and, stuck in heads of the government that are going to do what we want to do so we can fucking take advantage of them.
Literally, that is a system called the system. This is just insanely crazy. It's puppet states. People have been putting in puppet states, again, for millennia. The Romans did it. Like the ancient Romans did this. The stuff that he keeps talking about, it's like, Bill, why do you hate America and capitalism when you're making a killing as a capitalist right now? Like right now, you're doing it. And I'll ask this important question. Him, Krystal, all these people who talk trash, every one of them has their own special pieces they have. They either have their special doctors or their special planes or their special homes. So when we make this socialist utopia, you're going to give all that up? No, you're not. Stop. You don't want Medicare for all. You want Medicare for them. You don't want socialism for all. You want socialism for them. That's what you want. Come on.
To sit there and look at capitalism like it's, I don't know, dude.
It goes on, by the way, mocking the listener for pointing out ills of communism that have all been replicated under capitalism. Things like racist scapegoating, government surveillance, genocide, destruction of the middle class.
Yes, you've just admitted. Wow. Oh, perhaps a mirror would be a good a tool for you right now, Krystal. Perhaps a mirror would be a good idea for you right now. Yes, absolutely. It gets copied because of power. It doesn't matter if it's capitalist or communist. It doesn't. Powerful people become corrupt. Correct. So if you're saying these things were copied into capitalism, so they were bad into socialism too. So why would you want to go back to socialism, which ensures no one can move up? Nothing can change.
But a really key point here that I think is worth reiterating is this idea from Burr that we look at our own country and our own systems through rose-colored glasses. We've been schooled our whole lives in the worst of what happened under authoritarian communists, primarily the Soviet Union, of course. And I am not here to stand for any authoritarians on the left or the right, nor am I interested in rewriting history with regards to the failures of full-scale government central planning. But what
literally central planning, that's literally what socialism and communism is.
Burr is saying is absolutely true. We're trained to keep blinders on when it comes to seeing the ills of American society, which are in part, at least, caused by capitalism. There's in D.C.
which in part are caused by capitalism. Maybe that's true, but I will go to one step further. If you ask most people who are actual capitalists, they're not going to say, oh, what I want is monopoly. What's screwing us over is monopoly and oligarchy. That's true. And that screws over everybody regardless. If you go right now to China, it's an oligarchy. That's what it is. Russia is an oligarchy. Sadly, in America, it's an oligarchy. That's the problem. The type of government, not the type of economy. Let me repeat that again. The type of government, not the type of economy, is what matters here. We have when your government becomes an oligarchy, things go bad. I know you get sued off the ballot and nothing changes in your state. New York State is a perfect example of this, by the way. Literally a perfect example. New York State is going as socialist as you possibly can go. Lots of workers' rights to the point where people don't want to open a business anymore. Family leave, medical leave act, where people just take off for 6 months at a time and get paid anyway if you're a larger organization, middle or larger organization, already happening already. Pre-K for all, that's in New York City, across New York State already. Pre-K for all, free college already here. And New York State lines up at 42nd and 44th out of 51. Why 51? Because when you do these stats, they count DC as a state, even though it's not a state. So out of 51, we rank 42nd and 44th in graduation rate and in, of course, new young education. Yep, early education. 42nd and 45th out of, 44th out of 51. This is what socialized education gets you. It gets you number 42 and number 44. Meanwhile, we spend $29,000 per kid. You spend the most and get the least. That's socialism. It's happening right now in New York State. You might go, wait a minute, Larry. Well, so what? It's still good for the people like it. No. More people are leaving New York State than any other state. People don't like it. Remember I said the idea of people coming to America and not coming to Cuba? See, I can judge this idea based upon the number of people who want to be part of it. People don't want to be part of New York State socialism, and they're leaving. They're only part of California socialism, and they're leaving. That's the point. Countries that come in this country, they're not running to North Korea. They're not running to Cuba. Everything that she's saying is demonstrably false.
Museum. It's called the Victims of Communism. And I wish I was kidding when I tell you that the park right across the street houses a sizable homeless encampment. Dozens of tents lined up, people suffering with mental health issues, addiction issues.
She's absolutely right. It's a problem, 100%. And if you're going to say that we have a problem, you are right. We have a problem, and I have ideas to fix them. She's correct. Guilty as charged. I would ask you, what would happen in China? What would happen in Russia? One of two things. You literally, the cops come by and arrest them. If they resist, they kill them. We've seen this. Or they lock them up in homes they never get out. We see it all the time. Is that what you'd rather have? Don't get me wrong. We have a problem. That's repairable. Who in China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Cuba, who in any of these countries, Venezuela, who in any of these countries is going to get up and go, you know what? I have a plan to fix this. Let me start a nonprofit to start helping these people, which is happening in America. That's literally happening in America, right? That's happening. Who in Venezuela is doing that? The answer will be, oh, right, no one, because they tried to get arrested. How about China or Russia? Right, no one, or they get arrested. So we have problems, I agree. But why are you saying all of a sudden the answer is socialism? As we've moved towards socialism, Americans have rebuffed it and literally run away. But you still want it. I don't get it.
All sorts of things have been chewed up and spit out by our society. Many days you can see these victims of capitalism literally sitting on the steps of the victims of communism.
So hold on. The people who are addicts, for those who don't know, and again, I speak to this. I've an addict in my family. If you've had one, I'm sorry. I keep saying if you've had one, I shouldn't. In America, you've had an addict in your family somewhere. If it isn't you, you know one because it's affected all of us. 80% of them come from, you guessed it, FDA-approved drugs. Yes. Yeah, that's not that's the free market. That's not capitalism. That's not. That's oligarchy. That's monopoly. But I'll give you an example right next to it. Right next to it. That is not. That is actual free market capitalism. Health food stores and whole food stores, health food stores, natural food stores. The products in these stores, they have products for pain or for your bones or for your vitamins or for your minerals or whatever. They got all the things you could use. These are substances that people every day are taking and substances and food that they are putting in their children's body every day. It's happening all across America in health food stores, natural food stores. Where are all the deaths from those? Keep looking, because there are none. There are none. It's not a thing. The healthiest people you know shop in those stores. That is capitalism. Those people are healthy. Those people are doing well. That's capitalism. And who's checking? But wait a minute, Larry, there's no FDA. These things aren't FDA approved. You're correct. They got third party approved. Private market, third party approved. That used to be a thing in America. Some of you remember the company Underwriters Laboratory, right? They used to check all of the TVs and radios and stuff back in the day when people used to buy TVs and radios to make sure they weren't going to blow up in your house. And guess what? They didn't blow up in your house. It wasn't a government agency. It was a private agency. They did it. People wanted it. They got a stamp. That's about all the time. The market can provide, except it doesn't because the government stops them. The government creates monopoly and then blames the market. That's not the market, Krystal. That's not how that works. The market is in the natural food stores that are all over my area in Queens and New York and all over the world. That's the market. People are choosing to go there if they want to and buy the products and services they trust. And somehow people aren't dying. Huh. Isn't that weird how that works? It's weird how the capitalist piece that runs right next to the non-capitalist piece has no deaths. But the the capitalist piece has no deaths. But the government-controlled socialist piece that says you will take what we tell you to take, that piece, millions of deaths. Huh. I think that guy was about millions of deaths of socialism. I think he may be right.
Communism Museum. I cannot think of a more perfect encapsulation of our cultural blindness to the rot caused by our own system, which we live with every single day.
Our own
Since it's the water that we swim in, sometimes we just can't see it. Let's just do one super clear example here of what I mean, which is to dig into the opioid addiction crisis. Now, you probably know the outlines of the story. We've covered it a lot here. But basically, the Sackler family, owners of Purdue Pharma, start selling Oxy, pushing it as a non-addictive painkiller. That assessment, by the way, that it was non-addictive, was based on basically nothing and given a...
Yes, that's correct. And who agreed to that assessment? Oh, right. The FDA. The FDA agreed to that. Isn't it weird? What were so many other people saying at that point? They were saying we should have, oh, you guessed it, cannabis products. But today, Biden actually may make actually work. They were asking for cannabis products. If you had a capitalist society, we wouldn't have been stuck taking opioids. Now, don't get me wrong. For some people, opioids is exactly the right painkiller. I'm not anti-opioid at all. Depends on what you're going through, what you need. No worries. You should be taking the painkiller that works right for you in your world. Make your own decision. But there were no cannabis products, were there? Because the FDA stopped those. Because the government stopped those. In a capitalist environment, you'd have shrooms, you'd have cannabis, you'd have natural stuff, you'd have opioids. You'd have them all. So doctors wouldn't be prescribing, would they? It's the opposite of capitalism. And she's acting like it's capitalism. Krystal, you should know better.
Rubber stamp by a government regulator who then went and turned around to work for Purdue Pharma. There's that almighty dollar again.
So because there was a greedy guy in a system you set up, which is not capitalist, it was literally crony capitalism, which I just said, which is not the real capitalism, which I get to say if you get to say, right? Just allow for an open market, this never happens.
Doctors who get frequent visits and goodies and trips and dinners from pharma reps, they start prescribing Oxy for kids who get sports injuries, laborers who suffer from chronic pain, and its use becomes commonplace, especially in places that were devastated by job loss, thanks.
Yeah, but let me go back to this real fast if I could. So you're saying these guys are addicts. I got it. Well, in other countries, they don't have as much opioids or as many opiates as we do. Because we didn't push them, the government didn't push them. But hold on, let me keep going. What do you think is, well, let's look at other countries like Russia and China and such. Data out of China is tough. But here's what we know out of China. A whole lot of suicide. We know that. We know about Russia. Well, when it comes to alcoholism across the world, top 5 countries, Russia or Russia satellites, previously part of the Russia bloc. All of them. The highest alcoholism rates and deaths from alcoholism is in communist, current or former communist countries. Top 5 are either Russia itself, that country, or one of its satellites. Alcoholism. What about opioid use? What's the highest of that? Oh, wait. Also Russia. I'm not joking. Do your own homework. You can Google it right now if you want to. Top 5, Russia, Russia satellites. Opioids. Where was their FDA? Oh, they didn't have one. Where is their doctors pushing stuff? Oh, they don't have one. What about alcoholism? Oh, wait, that's them. All these communist and former communist countries all have the same problems. Yeah. So think about this. If we wouldn't have had the FDA, because that's the reason for 80% of our addicts, we would have lower addictions and lower opioid problems than all these other countries without, we already do. We'd have even lower. It was the government that's done this. Not the market. The market wouldn't do this. Of course it wouldn't.
to capitalism. The Sacklers knew almost immediately after that drug was introduced in 1996 that Oxy was addictive and was being routinely abused, including being crushed and snorted, that doctors were sometimes...
Okay, so what? So the FDA approved of this. What was the punishment of the FDA? Oh, right, nothing. Right, nope, none at all. They still have the same power they have. So you rewarded their bad behavior with more money because we need more federal regulation. That was the answer. I'm not joking. I wish I was joking. I'm not. So the FDA was terrible, totally screwed this up. And the answer was, well, we got to give them more money because it's got to be better. Or you hear this all the time, the Portuguese model, right? The Portuguese model, they said, you know what? We're not going to worry about this. And they have less opioid problems. Less. Huh. So they opened up the market and they got less. Weird how that market seems to work. Weird how capitalism is a better answer. I'm going to be very clear. Capitalism does not solve all the problems. It does not. You still have to have a good society, still have the good values in your society, still have the good institutions. All those things matter. All I'm saying is it's way better than socialism. That's all I'm saying.
Selling prescriptions, that the drug was being stolen routinely from pharmacies and then sold on the street. But they did worse than nothing. They buried the evidence. They doubled down on that popular drug that was making them billions of dollars.
So they took advantage of a crappy oligarchy system, and your answer is crush capitalism.
Pushing it rather than backing off. We all know what happened next. We ended up with the worst overdose crisis in our nation's history.
Yes.
Deaths from opioids skyrocketed as those who started with Oxy switched to heroin and then fentanyl, living in...
Yeah, but why did they... Okay, let's go. Let's walk down two of these things. It's as if... I'm wondering if her ideology blinds her. Perhaps that's what it is, because I know she's an intelligent person. So perhaps her ideology blinds her. Maybe that's what it is. Note that massive spike in 2020. What happened in 2020? Oh, right. Government lockdowns that made sure all people who are addicts and people who have mental illness couldn't get help and everything got worse. That's right. Yeah, government lockdowns did that. Right. But it's capitalism's fault. Would capitalism have stopped that? Of course not. But they all then switched to fentanyl, right? And they all switched to heroin. Why? Why'd they switch? Because no cannabis products. Why? Because government stopped them. 2, because cocaine's too damn expensive. Why? Because government stops it. You're going to go, wait a minute, Larry, what are you talking about? Wealthy people, very wealthy people also do drugs. We know that. We see them going to rehab all the time, right? But when do they die of drug overdose? Wealthy people. Only when a doctor overprescribes. That's it. Otherwise, they don't. You don't see the people in the street dying. They don't. Why? Because they have money and they buy better drugs. I'm not joking. They buy better drugs. That's what happens. So you could just stop the government prohibition, let people use other things, and many of them wouldn't be using this. All of this goes down. The reason for fentanyl, the reason for heroin, the reason for crack, the reason for meth, for all of the bad, horrible drugs that rip you to shreds is because the government made all the rest of them too expensive because of the war on drugs. I'm not making this up. If the government didn't do anything, there's a lot of people who'd be taking cannabis products who would not be taking opioids right now. A whole lot. Because they'd watch their friends get off. Because the average addict does want to get off, right? Most addicts don't want to be addicts. Some haven't got to that point yet. And again, you guys know addicts. Some aren't there yet. But the vast majority would like to not be addicts. The problem is you're not going to get an addict to quit when they're jonesing. You're asking too much of the addict. That's just not going to happen. They're not going to quit when they're jonesing. Well, you give them some cannabis products that are not jonesing as much anymore, and you can pull them off. Cannabis is not an entry drug. It's an exit drug. It's an exit drug. We should have been using it for years ago. She's making government intervention and blaming capitalism. I would argue the opposite. Capitalism found an answer for these people. It did. Capitalism found an answer for these people. The black market. How about we don't make it a black market? Because capitalism already found an answer for them that the government couldn't do. The government's ineffective at what it did. The war on drugs made more drugs. Didn't work. Government didn't work. But the market did find an answer. Why don't we support the market instead? It will find a better answer. Again, this is not going to make everything awesome. It will just make things better.
Leaving behind a trail of misery, pain, and death.
The government did.
Now,
yes.
You could say the Sacklers are evil. No argument from me there. But in another way, they're also totally unremarkable. They are
Yes.
creatures birthed by capitalism, a system.
No, they are creatures birthed by oligarchy, regulatory capture, and a government that can be bribed very easily to create more monopoly and more oligarchy, and people like you support them and tell the average person that oligarchy and monopoly are a good idea. When I was on with Sam Cedar, I literally said, "You like monopoly?" He said, "Yes, when it's government monopoly." He literally said it. He said that. She feels the same way. Government monopoly is good, but what about regular? No. I hate regular monopoly. So you hate regular monopoly, that you actually have a choice of somehow getting around and rising and knocking it down. That you don't like. But government monopoly, to which you have no choice whatsoever, you must fund, you must keep, that one you like.
That is designed to put money before lives. After all, they were far from the only ones who got in on this multi-billion-dollar grift.
That's true.
Johnson & Johnson, McKinsey Consulting, Endo
Yep.
International, Teva,
Yep.
and on and on and on. All
100%.
major companies that profited from their role in creating the opioid crisis.
Yep.
No drug cartel could possibly have done to this country what these blue chip American multinationals did.
You're right. So why don't we let the cartels in? Right? You're right. So why don't let the cartels in? Why are the cartels illegal? So what you just said is no cartel could do it. So we made the people who couldn't do it illegal, and we've made the ones who can do it legal. Do you understand what you're saying? Like you just said no cartel could do it, so why are they illegal? Let them in. Let the cartels compete with these guys. Well, maybe we wouldn't have had this problem, would we? You're answering your own question. What you want to do is you want to impose your form of authoritarianism on people, and they go, see, my authoritarianism is good. Theirs is bad because they say the evil words of profit and stuff. But I gotta, what I'm thinking, what I love about this all the time is all the people who hate profit are all profiting. Bill Burr making a killing off capitalism. Krystal making a killing off capitalism. Capitalism's bad as I buy my new house. Capitalism terrible as I, go on vacation to Mexico. Boy, capitalism sucks so bad as I benefit in every way, shape, or form. As I get to have my dream job. Boy, capitalism sucks. A mirror would be nice for you right now is all I'm saying. A mirror would be nice for you.
Some of these are public companies too. That means that they are actually duty bound by their responsibility to their shareholders to push dangerous pills on the population if it means getting.
Okay, no, that's not true. She's right about public companies, and I agree completely with this, right? The public companies, I like that face I got her. That the public companies should be regulated. I'm not joking. The market should be regulated not by the government. It should be regulated by a gaming commission that is run by private people. And I literally mean it's a gaming commission. Literally a game. The Las Vegas Gaming Commission, the commission that runs the casinos in Vegas, is less corrupt than our government SEC. I'm not joking. Less corrupt than the SEC. I would rather have a gaming commission, however, privately run gaming commission to run our to oversee our stock market and our private company. Public companies be better. She's right. The public companies are terrible. However, they don't have to kill you. This goes back to my military-industrial complex piece, right? The military-industrial complex isn't by default evil. It is apathetic. It wants to make money by selling high-priced products. That's what it wants. And if that happens to kill people, so what? They just don't care. But if we could get them to sell high-priced, high-ticket items to governments without killing people, they would do it. The pharmaceutical company doesn't care if their products addict people, as long as people keep buying them. They don't care. They sell the sexual pills, sexual enhancement pills all day long. Not killing people. They're killing people. They don't care. They'll sell it to grow your hair. They don't care. They just want to sell pills that people will keep buying so they can make money. I got it. So instead, let's make a better system so they'll sell the right pills for the right way. Once you give them this, they'll just keep doing it. Expect them to be apathetic and change the system.
A little bit better return on investment. Think of how utterly disgusting that is. And yet that's not a bug of our capitalist system. It's a feature. Capitalism created the jobless misery, the profitable pill to numb the pain.
Wow, capitalism created the jobless. No, it didn't. Government bailouts did. Not capitalism. Literally, corporate welfare, corporate socialism is what I did. In a capitalist market, they just go under. But we don't have capitalism. We have corporate socialism. So in a corporate socialist market, which is what we have, socialism, that's what creates bailouts. There's no libertarians going, boy, I sure love bailouts. That doesn't happen. Never. Capitalists aren't like, I can't wait for bailouts to happen. That's not what happens. She's just making this up now.
The cover up to keep it going for decades, and the perfect excuse, personal responsibility, to keep those suffering treated as criminals rather than humans who are worthy of.
So personal responsibility is an excuse now. I think that would be way better than other things. And keeping them criminals. Who kept them criminals? Do you think the average American wanted their family to be criminals? No. No. No one who has an addict in their life wants them to be a criminal. They don't want them. The fact that the government made it a criminal, why? Why? Because government had a war on drugs. That has nothing to do with capitalism. Nothing to do with capitalism. Lots of countries have wars on drugs. China has a war on drugs too. So does Russia. I mean, they don't do anything, but put their enemies in jail. They have it too. So does Thailand. They have a war on drugs also. You may get a death penalty for dealing drugs in Thailand. They have a war on drugs too. Lots of countries do. Saudi Arabia, war on drugs. Are they capitalist? I mean, their leaders are capitalist, but their people aren't. Basically socialist. They're a monarchy. They have a war on drugs. All you're doing is saying, government's done bad things. And I don't want to say government's bad because I'm a socialist, so I'm going to say capitalism has done bad things. But it's not capitalism that's done it. It is government that has done it. And you're arguing for more government. So by default, you can't say government did it, because if you do, that breaks your entire socialist idea. So you have to instead say capitalism did it. Capitalism didn't do any of this.
Care. Now, I think conservatives would tend to look at this series of events and they would focus on the individual failings, the greedy sacklers, the corrupt regulators, the drug traffickers who brought in the fentanyl.
But are conservatives by default capitalists? Or are you now mixing the two up and just going, well, now I'm a lefty, so all righties are bad? I think she may be going down this road.
Even those who allowed themselves to become addicted, as the right has tended to view addiction as a moral and criminal issue rather than as a public health issue. That's why, to the extent there's a right-wing critique of corporations now, it centers on the individual ideologies held by corporate executives rather than that overall.
Why is that a problem? That's actually good. In fact, if you know, my whole plan in New York State was to create an environmental victims unit, to where a unit would actually know how to pierce the corporate veil and to punish individual company officers for decisions they make. I go, Larry, that's kind of mean. No, I've been an officer in a public company. Yeah, you make decisions, and you make a decision, and you go to lunch. That's what you do. So don't do that. Instead, be responsible for your decisions. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
System as a whole. The woke HR executive, for one example. The answer, they would argue, to this whole problem comes from locking up the bad guys, bolstering those institutions that would improve the morality and values of the population, primarily the church and the family. Well,
yes, that's what conservatives would say, but how are those capitalists? Do capitalists say that? See, now she's just mixed capitalism and conservatives.
Attacking those institutions they believe are degrading public values like elite universities. Now listen, guys, I literally live in the town where I grew up in. I'm close to my parents. I believe family and community are absolutely critical to human thriving. And by the way, I do think that capitalism is also destroying those institutions of meaning, but I'll save that piece for another day. But while individuals certainly have agency in their lives and should be accountable for their actions, as a people, we are utterly powerless before the overwhelming forces that our economic system has unleashed.
Okay. We are powerless against the economic system. No, that's utterly not true. We are powerless against a government-backed monopoly. Let me say it again. We are not powerless against this economic system. That's not true. The reverse is true. How do I know? Because I know lots of people who can become entrepreneurs, people who can grow their own businesses, people who can move up and do things like her, literally her. A mirror would be awesome for you right now, Krystal. You have broken through this economic system. No, what we are powerless against is a government monopoly. I know. I got hammered by it. I do know. That's the truth.
How are you going to faith and family your way out of every job in your town being shipped overseas so that profit margins can go up a tick? How are you going to bootstrap your way out of a system of surveillance capitalism that is constantly devising new ways to colonize your mind and keep you glued to your screens? How are you going to personal responsibility your way out of endless wars to feed a profit-hungry military-industrial complex that is literally content to risk nuclear war if it means a better earnings call?
Well, I'll give you answers if you're going to check my policy team. I'll tell you how to do that. But didn't you do it? Haven't I done it? I mean, I'm trying to think this horrible thing. The last, how old is like Amazon? And how old is like Tesla? These companies that have exploded, right? I mean, Tesla's what, 20 years old? Am I about right on how old they are? So in 20 years, Tesla became a thing. It fought against the oligarchy and won. So someone did. People make tons of money, right? Microsoft used to be everything. And then the other companies, Google came up. Google's what, 25 years old? Something like that. I don't know how. They're all like 20-something years old. So most of these massive companies didn't exist 30 years ago. So within 20, 25 years, these companies have become giants. Well, that's how capitalism works, right? Without capitalism, there's one or two government-run companies that never go away no matter what. No matter what. But in our system, small companies can become big companies. It does happen. I'm wrong. We should have a whole lot less crony capitalism, but it's a lot easier to do. But you at least can. It is possible. That's how you get around it. Think about the corporate media. Oh, the corporate media, whatever. You're breaking it. You get more views than CNN. Joe Rogan gets more views than all of the people on cable news. Your industry is proof that what you just said is wrong. I would say again, man, a mirror would be nice right now.
Problem isn't wokeness or college kids or trans teens or public school teachers. It's capitalism that wants to turn you into that generic, unthinking, profitable, sheep-like consumer.
And that would not happen under socialism, right? It wouldn't make you sheep-like. I would ask you to ask anyone who has lived in a socialist country, was the government trying to make them sheep-like? And I would ask you to ask 10 of them and see if 9 of them don't go absolutely 100% and one goes, I don't want to talk about it because I was in a gulag. This is insane to say. You know what option you have in a capitalist society? To not be a sheep. You have an option. Now, don't get me wrong. She's right. Big, powerful things and oligarchies and stuff will push you into it. Correct. But you have the choice to not do it. How do I know that? Her. She is literally not working for corporate media. She is the example. She is her own example, as am I. We are all our own example. We can not watch it if we want to. If you're in a socialist country, that's all there is. You will watch it or you go to the gulag. In a capitalist society, which again is not perfect at all, I have a chance. I have a choice. I can turn the TV off. I can not watch the show. I can watch alternative media if I want, like her. I can do all those things. I don't know what you're talking about. This doesn't happen in a socialist country. In a socialist country, you can ask people who've lived there. You think they have this in Cuba? They have this in Russia? Stop. They have this in China? What are you talking about?
Now, liberals, of course, they've got their own version of the personal responsibility narrative, by the way. The problem is the deplorables or the Karens or the toxic masculinity. If there were more women and people of color running these corporations, then the government wouldn't be so horrible, the corporations wouldn't be so horrible, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This all,
that was her going, well, I'm not totally left.
Of course, is a distraction from the real issues. We can do better than accepting the deaths of despair and the skyrocketing cost and the destroyed middle class and the endless wars and the murderous healthcare system that we have now. There are
oh, by the way, all the things she mentioned, every one of them run by government. I'm not joking. Every one of them run by government. And she's like, what we need is more government. Everything she just said, healthcare, opioid crisis, wars, military complex, all run by government. Everything she hates that she just said is bad is run by government. And her answer is capitalism bad. No, government bad. Right. Correct. Government bad. All of those things she just said run by government.
a lot of options on the path between the corporate-run state we live in now and some Stalin-style
It's not a corporate-run state. It's a government-run state.
authoritarian central planning nightmare. In fact, persuading Americans that our only options are Stalin or the Kochs is a pretty key way that the radical and deadly status quo is preserved for all those who profit from it.
You just did that. You just did that. So doing this thing that I just did is the way the bad guys do stuff. But I didn't just do it. Yeah, I'm going to go back to the mirror again. You really need one. You just did it.
Bill Burr has it absolutely right. Time to take the blinders off on the victims of capitalism who are all around us. And Sagar,
anyway, I just thought you guys might enjoy that piece because it's a common thing. A lot of people are saying that it's all about capitalism. It's the problem. The problem isn't capitalism. The problem is our government system. That's it. It is our government and our oligarchy that we have. That's the problem, right? And oligarchy will suck no matter what, whether it's a capitalist, whether it's a kleptocracy, whether it's a monarchy, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it is going to suck. That's the problem. Oligarchy is the problem. So let me grab some of yours if I could. By the way, if you guys like what I'm saying, do me a favor, like, comment, share. I'm going to grab your comments in 2 seconds. If you want to help me out, share the world's smallest political quiz. It is my sponsors, theadvocates.org, and they are trying to get people to take the quiz and share it and have conversations about things just like this with their friends. And this political quiz will help you. It's short. It takes like 2 minutes. It's done. And you'll see your results. And if you want to give your email address, you may, but you don't have to. You can click without giving your email address if you don't want to. You guys are scared that the advocate's going to take your stuff. They won't. But anyway, if you're scared, no worries. You don't have to do it, but you can if you want to. Share it anyway. It does help. It's really good for us. If you want to support me specifically, awesome. LarrySharpe.com/donate. Help me try to take this state back to the best of my ability. I know I'm struggling, but I'm not done fighting, damn it. I'm not done. So you want to help me out? LarrySharpe.com/donate. That's the piece right there. Please do that. If you want to buy some cool stuff like a shirt or a mug, please go ahead. LarrySharpe.com/shop. All good stuff. So I can grab some of these comments. Dave remembers Underwriters Laboratory. I do too. Yes. If Underwriters Laboratory was a government agency, your electronics would catch fire and your house would burn down. Dave, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. That is exactly right. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Robert says, I'm 60 and I need no medication because all my vitals are spot on healthy. I cook all the time and no fast food at all. Robert, brother, see? You know, I can tell you something. I had to go to get a procedure done about a week ago. And you're going to like this. I get a procedure done and I'm 54. Please don't know how old I am. 54 years old. And when I went there, they asked what medication you on. And I said, none. Nothing? No prescriptions? None. Okay. So then I go to the next person. What are your prescriptions? Did they ask you? I said, yeah, none. Oh, okay. Next person. I'm in the list of people talking. So what are your prescriptions? I said, none. I'm on no medications. Like, they couldn't believe, Robert, to your point, they couldn't believe that a 54-year-old man could be in America and not be on a prescription. They just could not believe it. It was impossible to understand. They would not accept it as true. 4 times the people asked me that question. They thought the last person forgot. It is true that this is our world. This is our world. Absolutely. Byron says, I bring up UL all the time. Yes, right. That's the thing. It's crazy. You're totally correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Phil says there are a lot of homeless veterans because of government destruction in their life. Yes. Drug addiction is often enabled by the welfare state. Yes, yes, and yes. Absolutely. Paula, Larry, you know your Japanese history. I know a lot of weird stuff, Paula. I do. Yes. The East Asian co-prosperity sphere. Yes. A lot of people know that stuff. Yes. A lot of people who study war and history. I never forget what Jimmy Carter said. It stuck with me. You know, Jimmy Carter, one thing that I liked about Jimmy Carter is he understood that he screwed up. Like, he knew he didn't do well as a president. Like, he knew that. If you asked him, he would tell you that. Like, yeah, I screwed up, whatever. He would say that. And that part I like. Most people would never say that, right? They'd be like, oh, no, American people were dumb or something. He's like, no. I didn't do that well. I didn't get my stuff done. He would say that. And then he went off to build houses. Good for you, man. Love Jimmy Carter for that. Screwed up, went up build houses. Go build houses, man. Good for you. So they asked him, I said, what's important in becoming, president? He said 2 things. He said good health and a good sense of history. And I think he was right. Sadly, he dropped the ball. but I do think he was right. So I try to have good health. As I say, I have no prescription. I try to have good health and good sense of history. I try to do both so that I can be a good politician, a good candidate. That is my hope. So yes. Grace says, you are great at these commentary type shows. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm trying my best to do this the best of my ability to make sure we do this. So yes, thank you. Sean says, Carlin was right about just about everything. Sean, you're not wrong. He was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yes. Justin says, as a libertarian, how are you going to protect teachers' retirement from TRS and VALIC? I'm unsure. Justin, it's a good question. Let me ask I'm unsure. I tell you what I'm going to do, Justin. It's a very specific question. I don't want to answer off the cuff if I'm unsure. So let me have my team look into that, and I'll give you an answer by Monday. Monday, I'm gonna do a policy thing. Supposed to do it today, but my team convinced me to push it off until Monday. We'll do it on Monday, and I will cover that at my Monday session, and we'll timestamp it. So you have to watch the whole thing if you don't want to. You can check the timestamp at the end of the day. Probably Tuesday will be timestamped. You can find your spot. I'll answer your question. I always want to answer a question, but I'll make sure I answer it correctly. And teachers have a problem. I mean, teachers have a problem. They do. Not just teachers. I shouldn't say that. It isn't just teachers. It's everyone in New York State who has any type of pension, right? There's a problem that's happening here. So let me see how I can deal with yours specifically. Thank you. Let me keep going here. All right. Let's see. Joshua says, what's a simple marijuana federal offense? I don't think any federal marijuana offense is simple. No, what it means is that all your other offenses will still stand. Only that one would not stand. So if you have done enough time to where that additional piece is what you're now on, you could leave. It'll get you out of jail. So that, yes. And he doesn't want to go all out because he thinks it may be too far for the right. And he's a drug warrior, Joshua. This is a lot for him. He's the guy. Him and Kamala don't want to put everybody in jail. Shelley's right. Right? Shelley's right. They put the ones in jail. So they don't want to do this at all. That's it. So yes. All right. Let's see if I can go down here. James says, federal simple marijuana law, it was most like an extra charge on top of the original federal charges. Simple marijuana possession is state level. Yeah, James, I think there's a point to that, which is why I say I want him to go further. I do, but I'm okay. This will do. This will do because it'll push other states into doing the right thing. This will do. Again, I agree. Not perfect. This will absolutely do. Yes. All right. Let's see here. James says, I want to make a killing off of talking about capitalism. Yes. Yes. Yes, literally. Yes, literally. I love that. Yes. All right. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Hold on. Brendan says, that's a bad argument. You still have to play the game that you were dropped in when I was poor and talked about wealth and equality. They call me jealous. Unless they call me hypocrite. No, Brendan. That's not. No. It is a good argument. It is a good argument, right? Because you're saying that capitalism is a bad system, but you're still using it and doing well. And if you're telling me, and there are people who would, if you're telling me that when we institute our social utopia, I will accept the state running my internet site. I will not go to private doctors. I will only go to state-sponsored doctors. I will only take a salary, and I will only say what the state says I can say. Then I would say, okay. But I think you and I know she's not doing that. That's the issue, right? I talk about capitalism all the time. I'm glad I have my own show. I'm glad I can be my own boss. I haven't had a regular job since 2004, 3, whatever it was, a while ago. 2003, 4. Last time I had a standardized 9-to-5 job, and I'm happy about that. But I'm not sitting here trying to tell you you can't or should or shouldn't do it. I want to make a system to where if you want that lifestyle, you got a shot at it. If you don't want it, you don't have to. You should be able to do what you feel is best. Capitalism gives us the best chance of that happening. The data is in. It gives us the best chance of that happening. So no, I want you to have, if you want her lifestyle, my lifestyle, whoever's lifestyle, you should be able to try to get that lifestyle if you want it. And that's all I'm saying. So no, it's not at all, right? It's not the same at all. You shouldn't be attacking the system when you wouldn't fall back to that. You shouldn't be advocating for a system that you wouldn't want to be part of. She would not want to be part of that system. And that's my point, right? That, to be clearer, this is not Medicare for all. This is Medicare for them. They're not going to take Medicare. They're not doing it. That's my point. Now, Brendan, if you tell me she's a true believer, and look, I don't know her that well, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I've misjudged her, and she would sacrifice everything for the greater good of socialism. If she would do that, I'm wrong about her, and I would say that openly. I don't think she's doing that. That's all I'm saying. So, all right. Byron says, my favorite thing is when people complain about capitalism for their newest 12-inch iPhone. Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. 100%. That's great. Yeah. All right. Brian says, capitalism is not perfect. Agreed. It is not. There are tons of problems with it, and ours is also broken. We have crony capitalism, but it's 500 times better than socialism / communism will ever be. To the people of Cuba and Venezuela would love that capitalism. Of course they would. They've been opening up. Cuba's every single state that's been socialist has begun to add capitalism to their piece, because socialism can work when you add capitalism, right? One of the most socialist countries in the world, one of them is Norway. Norway's socialist compared of the modern, not modern, that's the wrong word, of industrialized developed countries. It's Norway. They also have $1 trillion fund that pays for their social programs. So they have a fund that invests, literally capitalism, that supports socialism. So yeah, if you got a big bank account, be socialist, no problem. So that's why capitalism works well. So one Facebook user says, vote for Larry Sharpe. Yes, do that. Another one says, write in Larry Sharpe. Yes, do that. Absolutely. 100% yes. All correct. So, all right. Sean says, helicopter rides for drug dealers in the Philippines. Correct. They actually kill them. Literally shoot them in the street. Yes. Patty says, I never liked her. Many of my friends did. I find her condescending, pedantic, and vexatious. Look at that. Even back in my leftist days. Well, I like that. That's good. Jim says, make it criminal rather than civil and things will change. Make it criminal rather than civil. I'm not sure where you're going with that one, Jim. I'm not sure where you're going with that one. Was that answering someone else? I'm not, yeah. Shelly said she went from apples to oranges and now it's just an entire fruit salad. Yes, that and most people don't even notice. It was like, yeah, those conservatives are bad. And that's kind of what that was. That's kind of how that works. Yeah. So Joel says, vote with your dollars. Don't support people you don't agree with. Yes, and you can vote for dollars for me if you want to. LarrySharpe.com/donate. You can do that if you want to. Yes. Paula says, Larry, you aren't petty, but I am. She has a lot of skincare products / enhancements that were paid for by capitalism. You're not wrong, Paula. You are not wrong. Yes. Yes. 100%. Robert says, I find that the people making more than a comfortable living who complain about capitalism to be rather funny. There's so many of them, aren't there? So many of them. And again, Robert, if she were to say, the second you install the communist government, I will surrender all of my private, property and give it to the state. And if she would actually believe that and say that, that's not a hypocrite. Okay. But she's not doing that. She's not going to do that. Of course not. So yeah, of course not. 100%. Yes. All right. Let's see. Cosmic says, right, you can talk about anything as long as it's within the capitalist structure. Get in line. Got it. Right? You can talk about anything as long as it's within a capitalist structure. Get in line. I'm not sure what that means. Not sure. Patty says, being aware, conscious, and sensible is exhausting. At times, I wish I can go back to sleep. I wish you just slap people into reality. Getting into brains is tough. Patty, I got to tell you something. I tell this story often. Life was easier when I was a young Marine. You're right. When I was a Marine in the 80s, Ronald Reagan was my commander-in-chief. And we were right and they were wrong. And they was whoever Ronald Reagan told me they was. And life was easier. It was simpler. My eyes were closed and it felt good. Whoever was the bad guy, Ronald Reagan told me is the bad guy. That's the bad guy. And we can go get them and we're good. And it's black and white, good and evil. Great. There's value to that saying, ignorance is bliss. Yeah. And now the more I know, ooh, yeah, it's exhausting. You're correct. It's a whole lot easier just to go, you know what? Black and white, we're good, they're bad. Let me go to the store and buy some chicken. I mean, that's just really a whole lot better. Yes, absolutely. Chris says, Larry, I'm 54 too. No wonder you rock. Lots of other reasons too. Thank you, Chris. I love it. Yes, absolutely. 100%. So all good. All right, Justin says, thank you. Yes, I will cover it. I apologize for not being able to give it to you right away. I appreciate that. Yes. So he says, Jimmy Carter is one of the best people in our nation, but he's a terrible president. I would agree with that, right? Like, I want Jimmy Carter to be my grandpa. I don't want him to be my president, but I would love if he was my grandpa. That'd be awesome, right? Love that. So I agree. Jimmy Carter was a good guy. 100%. Yes. So Morgan says, once again, Larry Sharpe being humble, not to say he doesn't know, but we'll get back to you. Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I do, right? Yes. All the time. Yes, I don't want to. The thing that people, I think, want to hear is my actual opinion on stuff. So, of course, I get it. Yeah. Andrea says, I don't think there's a perfect solution. Capitalism is best chance we have of pulling people out of poverty. Yes, yes, and yes. 100%. 100% yes. It does matter. Absolutely. It does matter. So, all right, let me go. There's another piece I wanted to bring up here. And this one is what I talk about more than anything else that I've ever talked about. And this is the idea of men being in trouble. I bring this up constantly. Hold on. This is also from Breaking Points, by the way. In this case, that he's talking about men who are in trouble.
It's obviously not the only thing going wrong in our workforce right now.
So do we know what those men are doing instead of working in?
They're talking about literally millions of men in America who are no longer working, who simply aren't looking for work, aren't working at all. And you talk about how so many of them are either on pain medication or are on disability, and so they've given up. They've just given up.
Regular jobs. And also, I was curious in the statistics, do things like, driving for Uber or these sort of like gig economy type of work, is that included in the statistics of men who are working?
Now, she gets upset about that because she doesn't like the gig economy at all. She hates gig economy and she hates Uber. She only wants people to have workers and that kind of thing. Yet, to be clear, again, the hypocrite piece, they use lots of gig workers for their specific place. They use lots of gig workers, but she's against it. She thinks it's a bad idea. And I'm saying that's saving people.
That's supposed to be included, Krystal. I mean, in principle, in practice, some of it may be missed. In practice, some moonlighting may be missed. But the scale of the problem, I think, is basically pretty for real. I think the scale of the problem isn't artificial.
And so do we have a sense of like what they're doing with their days instead of work?
What are they doing with their days?
So about a tenth, maybe a little more than a tenth of these guys who are not in the workforce are really full-time students.
So some are students, 10%.
The way they behave, the way they act is more or less like people who are employed, not surprisingly, because they're expecting to get back into the workforce. For the overwhelming majority, though, the people who are neither employed nor in education and training, you've got a really dispiriting picture that is being painted by them, by their self.
They are talking about what they're not doing. They are really doing a bad. People are staying home, watching TV, things of that sort.
Is this why should people care? In essence,
why should you care?
What socialized costs are all of us incurring as a result of this crisis?
I've thought about that a lot, Cigar, and as far as I can tell, there's absolutely nothing good that comes out of this.
Nothing good from this.
It leads to this huge gap in our workforce means slower economic growth. It also means bigger income and wealth gaps in our society. It probably means more dependence upon social programs and social welfare over the long term, more pressure on fragile families, less social mobility, less involvement in society, and trust in institutions. There's just you do the 360. There is nothing good that comes out of this.
So how is that capitalism's fault? Just in the same show, Krystal was yelling how capitalism is ruining everything. All these bad things. It's not cause capitalism. It's not cause capitalism. I'm the only one in this state talking about men being hammered by family law. I'm the one talking about men being hammered by addiction. I'm the one talking about men who are felons who can't get their act together because they're felons. I'm the one trying to get men back in action. What's your plan if you're the Republican? There is none. What's your plan if you're Democrat? There is none. This is a serious problem that's affecting our entire country, all our people, all our families, all our men and boys. There are books on this, and I can't get anybody, with the exception, I'll give him credit, Yang is talking about it. Andrew Yang is talking about the crisis in boys and men. He is. But he's not running for anything. But he's the only, I guess, politician-like person who's doing it. Nobody running for anything is saying it. They're worried about whatever, capitalism or Ukraine or socialism or whatever is the thing, or abortion or whatever. How about the fact that right in front of you, the men who you love are suffering? And you might go, well, they're men, whatever. I'm a hardcore lefty and I don't care about these horrible white men or whatever you might be thinking. Great. You don't care about them. What's going to happen when some terrible leader says, I need a bunch of men to go do bad things? These men will get behind him. This is a recruiting ground for bad men. That's what it is. And it won't be a woman. It'll be a man. It'll be a man who understands broken young men. He'll be an older man, sociopath, who understands broken young men. He will say the right things at the right time, the right way, and he will draw millions of them. And they will do terrible things to you and yours. How do we know that? Right now, I brought it up before. I brought it up yesterday. It was the day before yesterday. I brought it up. These men who are broken are literally going into schools and murdering our children. Literally going into our schools and murdering our children. That's what they're doing. And we're like, well, let's worry about other stuff. I'm the one talking about
And what do you see as the spark that set this process in motion? Because I believe you said it's basically a straight line since I think you said 1965. So
1965. Straight line from 1965. What started happening in the late 60s and the early 70s? What do you think?
What starts to happen that changes the dynamic that leads to this sort
Capitalism
of,
that happens,
not just dropping out of the workforce, but becoming a sort of observer of society rather than a participant in altogether?
It's a really profound question, Krystal. And since this has been going on for over half a century, I mean, it's an established historical fact, a big fact. And like other big established historical facts, it's probably got a lot of influences intertwined there.
Well, go ahead, say it.
I can point to a couple of things.
Yeah, I'm going to already say before you go there, you didn't want to say it, and she doesn't want to hear it either. It was government interference. What? Oh, my God. It was government interference. Yes, it was. Government interference in the family, in the war on drugs. Yeah, it was government and social welfare programs. Yeah, it was all of them. Yep.
I mean, one has been the the erosion of the previous family order in the United States, because the men who are never married or don't have kids at home are way less likely to be involved in the workforce too. Another is the expansion.
Note, the men who have families or men who have relationships are much more likely to actually be involved. Yes, it's what I say about all the shooters. There are two things the shooters always have. Well, one thing they don't have and they do have. What they always have is some prescription to a drug because they have some form of mental problem or disorder. Number one. And number two, they don't have a girlfriend. No girlfriend and drug. Those two things are common every single time. Every time. If they had purpose, what do I always say is killing our kids? What I always say is killing our young people. Lack of purpose, lack of community, loneliness. Exactly what he's saying. My policies work to fix those things in every single way. They help bring family together, they help people out, and they help people who are broken. And they help people who are broken. And why I'm so upset about this is everyone's now starting to talk about it. I've been talking about it for 5 years. My policies have been that way for 5 years because I watched this already happen. I've been seeing broken men for 5 years. And the Republican Party in this state decided, don't support Larry Sharpe, even though the date is in. I would have won the damn thing. If they would have put me on the top of the ticket, the most recent polls show right now, I would have won this damn thing. But they decided to not do it and instead sue me off the ballot and not talk about this and not talk about Democrats. Democrats don't talk about it either. Kathy Ella doesn't care about this. She just throws money at problems. And Lee Zeldin's incompetent. What's the difference?
Of social welfare benefits. Our system is very stingy. I've been told by anybody I talk to in Europe or other, affluent societies in the world. But there can still be perverse disincentives, especially in our, I think, in our disability archipelago of programs to infantilize people who shouldn't be affected.
Did he just say infantilize people? What do you hear me say all the time? Democrats want to be your mother. Republicans want to be your father. I just want to be your brother. That's it. That's it. I don't want to be your father. I don't want to be your mother. I don't want to infantilize you. I want to equalize you. I just want you and me to be two people in America, two people in New York, trying to live our life to the best of our ability, screwing up sometimes and doing well sometimes and helping each other when we need to, because we're brothers and sisters. So we know that I live together, but we need to ride to the airport. Well, then I'll be there to help you out. Get that ride to the airport because I'm your brother. I'm not your mom or your dad. But nanny state makes you mom or dad.
That way. We've also seen the explosion of crime and the explosion of punishment. This is a really big one.
War on drugs, explosion of crime, explosion of punishment. Literally the war on drugs. Literally the war on drugs.
Does not collect any decent data on our invisible ex-con population, but we have reason to think that there are now 25 million American adults who have a felony in their background.
Wow.
And
did you hear that? 25 million adults with a felony background, which means most of them are men. 95% of felons are men. That's just a fact, right? 95% are men. So I got 25 million felons. And you're talking about what? Capitalism. Capitalism is the only way out. It's the only way that they can make it. What are they doing? Gig economy, black market, right? And entrepreneurism. Yeah. Gig economy, black market, entrepreneurism. I was at a place in upstate New York a couple weeks ago, and a guy, he tries to help people who are handymen and stuff. So he's runs a hardware store. He's got a bunch of cards. He's got a bunch of cards out, right? For people who come to the hardware store and say, hey, I need my deck done, or I need this done. And you can grab a card. Oh, try this guy, whatever. They do a good job for you, right? He said at least half those guys are felons. So they make money. Small business, capitalism. Gig economy, capitalism. Yeah. Or black market, broken capitalism. That's how they get back on their feet. If they can't do it, if they don't have the balls to go into the black market, which requires straight up violence because you don't have cops and courts. So they're not prepared to literally break people's arms and legs and shoot them in the street, which is what the black market requires. You can't do that. Well, then you try to do something else, entrepreneurship. If you fail at that, what do? You lose hope and you stay home and you go on disability and you take painkillers. That's what you do. You get a check and you stay home and you give up and you don't do anything. Purpose is so important. I wanted to bring this up because this is people talking about this now. I talk about it all the time. I've been talking about it so much because it matters. How are we going to fix this country or fix this state with an army of broken men? It's impossible. We need an army of well men, men who have purpose, men who have community. So we need. Now, women too, of course. But in this specific case, the women are on the rise, right? That's the advantage of it. Women are still hurting. Don't get me wrong. Women have not got to the level they're supposed to get to. That's true. But the good thing about it is women are doing this. It is happening for them. Men are doing this. And they're matching, but this is happening. I would like that to happen. That'd be nice. That's not happening. We've got to make that change, right? That's the issue. And it does drive me crazy. It does matter. People do matter. Andrew says, by the way, you killed it reacting to Hassan. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. That was pretty good. Yeah. Anthony says, you should endorse Lee Zeldin. Well, if I endorse Lee Zeldin, Anthony, what would happen is a chunk of people would go, Larry, you goddamn sellout, and would never, ever talk to me ever again. And those people would not vote for Lee Zeldin. They would just check out. They wouldn't vote. Or they'd vote for me anyway, just they'd write in my name anyway. Or they'd go vote for Kathy Holt because they're mad at me. That's one chunk. Another chunk would go, oh, I guess hopefully Zeldin, a couple would. And that chunk would just not show up and wouldn't vote anymore. Right? They wouldn't vote because they care about what I stand for, my ideas. Why people vote for Lee Zeldin? Because he's a Republican. And here's my proof of this. I want you to imagine for yourself, you would for a second. Right now, I'm polling and he's polling, right? I'm not even on the ballot. And I poll low end 3%, high end 7%. So let's say, just for sake of argument, 4% is where I'm polling at. 4%, say 5. I'm going to go 5 because it sounds better. 5%, I'm polling at 5%, right? So that means he's polling at what, 45%, whatever that in his magical world. And that's going to get us together. We're going to go win. If that's true, imagine if it was swapped. What if I had the Republican ticket and Lee Zeldin was running by himself? No one votes for Lee Zeldin. He's not on the ballot. No one knows who the hell he is. They know him because he's a Republican. So I'd ask you, Anthony, if the Republican Party wanted to win, why doesn't Lee Zeldin drop and endorse me? All the Republicans would still vote for me because they're Republicans. Plus the other people who actually like me would vote for me. We'd actually win. So do you want to win or do you want to make Republicans look good? I don't care about making Republicans look good. I want to fix this state. So Republicans will come in second, tighter than before. Oh boy. So instead of losing by 25 points, they'll lose by 15 points. And that'll make you feel good. Is your life going to get any better? No, you're gonna pack up and leave New York anyway. No, thank you. I'll pass. I have an idea. Why don't you tell Lee or tell your Republican representative that they screwed up not backing me last year when I told them to do so. And they should now force Lee Zeldin to drop out and to put me in his spot and endorse me. Cross-endorse me. Give me the spot and I beat Kathy Hochul. How about that? Tell him that. See if we do it. I got a feeling he won't. He raised $12 million and threw it away. Imagine if I had $12 million. Again, I'm polling at 3, 4, or 5%. I'm not on the ballot. I raised $500,000. Imagine if I raised $12 million. I would win. So you go ahead and you live your world of if I back out, whatever. Tell Lee to back out. You want to change New York State? Tell Lee to endorse me. See if I do it. He won't. Republican Party doesn't care about winning. They care about keeping their power. That's all they care about. So yes. All right. Anyway, let me keep going if I can. All right. And Anthony goes on to say the ideology of breaking up the two-party system is great, but we need change in New York. Good. Then have him endorse me and we'll have it. Done. There we go. I love it. Oh, good. All right. Let me grab a couple of these if I can. I appreciate you guys, all the stuff you guys are doing. And I don't mind the bad stuff too. I don't care. Some of you are going to yell at me. It's fine. You can do that. I don't mind. It's all good. I don't really mind. So let's see if I can grab this too if I could. All righty. Shelly says, when I'm commenting on another channel, I always mention Larry. People are starting to like hashtag Rant Larry Sharpe. MSM can deny him popularity, but the likes are evidence. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I do. Thank you so much. Yes, absolutely. Let's see here. Well, you guys give me a lot. I appreciate that so much. All right. So many of these. I appreciate it. Wow. You guys going back and forth too. I love it. I love that. Yes. Wow. Okay. Dan says you're asking the Republicans to innovate. I think we'll see the second coming before we see Republicans try something different. Yeah, I think you're right. David says Lee Zeldin will be lucky to get 40%. Even Republicans in New York are pro-choice and abortion. Valid point. You're right. Yes, absolutely. Cisco Inference says he won't drop out or endorse you because all they want is power, Larry. That's all they care about. It's true. If they wanted to win, they would have already done it. Absolutely. Ryan says Lee Zeldin type of Republican that makes my blood boil. That's why I'm libertarian. Anthony, not going to work, my friend. It just isn't. So yeah, guys, again, what I'm asking you to do to help me out, if you do want to help me out, I know many of you do want to help me out. There is a way of doing it, and that is sharing the world's smallest political quiz. It does matter. They are my sponsor, theadvocates.org. Please do that if you can. It helps tremendously. Of course, always like, comment, and share. If you want to support me raising cash so I can keep going these last 30 days, I'm still busting my rump trying to get the 100,000 votes. If you want to do it, you can see I'm still polling great. Not on the ballot, still polling great. LarrySharpe.com/donate is the place to go. Please make that happen. Whatever you can give does matter, and it's an investment. You know I'm here. I've been here for 5 years. I'm not going anywhere. And of course, if you want to get some cool stuff, some cool merch, you want to get a sign, you want to get a shirt, you want to get a mug, LarrySharpe.com/shop. Guys, I say thank you so much for today. I appreciate all the time you gave me. I will be heading off, by the way. Sorry, I will be heading off. I will be heading out tomorrow, and I'm going to be doing several stops tomorrow. I'm going to be in, let me see here if I can get this right so I can not make a mistake. I can do it right. I'm going to be in Elmira tomorrow night at 6. I'm then going to be in Montour Falls Saturday at 10. I am going to be in Central Valley at 3:30 p.m. in Orange County. I'll also be in Greene County. I forgot where, 6:30. And then Sunday, I will be in Nassau County at the Nutty Irishman. So please check out my Facebook page or check out LarrySharpe.com/events to see where I am if you want to come by and do that. But I'll ask something else of you if I could. I would like you all right now, if you live in any of those places, if you live in if you live near any of the places I just mentioned, to call local media. You call and or email local media and say, hey, Larry Sharpe's coming here. Larry Sharpe's going to Elmira at 6 o'clock. You know some people are there. Why don't you cover him? Why don't you show up? If you're running for governor, only independent candidate, cover him. If you're in Orange County, right? Greene County, any of those, Nassau County, call the people, the local press, call them, email them, write them, whatever, tweet them, whatever, and say, hey, Larry Sharpe's going to be here. Why don't you guys come cover him? I could use every single bit possible. One more thing I'm going to ask you. That's one. I'm not done. If you want to help out, that's a good thing you can do if you live in those counties. But what if you live in North Country? You live in Jefferson County, St. Lawrence County, Franklin County, Essex County, Clinton County, any of those counties. Live in any of those counties. Do me a favor. Start looking for venues that would take me. Diners. And here's the rules. In any place I go to, it must be a locally owned place. Diner, vape shop, winery, brewery, anything, lumber mill. I've been in lumber mills too. Any place that is locally owned. That's all. I only support local businesses when I travel. That's all I ever do. So if you know any local businesses, Essex County, St. Lawrence County, Jefferson County, Franklin County, any businesses that are in North Country, if you know any, pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, Larry Sharpe wants to come by. Would you be open to having him do an event there? And if they say yes, reach out to the page, either Facebook page or Twitter account, either one, directly DM and say, hey, here's a place that will take us. Please do that if you can. It will help me tremendously. I'm trying to get more events going. I want to cover the entire state. If things go the way I want to go, I will finish all 62 counties this month. If not, I got to do it next month in November. That will kind of suck because it's cold. But I'll do it anyway if I have to. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. I hope you guys can help out if you can. I will see you all